expressing what the problem is, really, and all the ramifications of that. I think I'm going to call it the guru industrial complex.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Um, I could start by just telling that one story about my friend and then let you riff on it. How does that sound? So it was my friend's husband. He had a very lucrative job in a field which pays extremely well, is known to pay extremely well, but is not necessarily the best one for the soul of an artist or a spiritual person, which he has always been all his life. And so somehow or other, he became familiar with this online internet guru. And this person is much more on the spiritual side, much more on the sort of positive, do good side, more aimed at women, but he's a very sort of sensitive guy the way I am. So a lot of her messages resonated with him. And I'm very familiar with this person actually. I already had done some work with this person and thought what she had to offer was pretty cool and pretty positive. But it was definitely in the standard format in the sense of landing page with building up the excitement of what you could do and who you could become if you could learn how to inspire people. And her background is in copywriting. So really the whole package of what she offers is in copywriting, which of course is a pretty incredibly powerful art. And she kind of wrapped a whole bunch of things around the copywriting, like you can make your online training, you can inspire your audience, you can find your tribe like I'm doing right now. And through this magical process, you can get online followers just like me who take your classes and, find their voice. And to be honest, this had worked extremely well for her. I know that this person had actually done another training that I had happened to have an inside baseball. She had done a training of these other people who had the same formula, right? So it's a formula that follows on and on, generation after generation. And so the bottom line of this is that this guy got very inspired, and he got into her, ultimately going level and level up. He got into her $20,000 program. And I think there was an even a more inner circle beyond that was he didn't go into, but this was her elite coaching circle $20,000 program. And this is a person who really had no background in internet marketing, no background in this whole world, right? So it was all new to him. And the way I see it, he was built up and built up and built up about this incredible, wonderful thing of finally expressing his dream, finally realizing his purpose on this earth. And this was the vehicle to do that, right? And of course, because this is a copywriter, I want to be careful. I don't sort of want to malign this person. I don't think this person is bad. I think maybe what I want to talk about more is the systemic issues embedded in this dynamic. But he got into this thing and it really wasn't working for him. And he just kept finding that once he'd gotten through that door that he thought was going to be his answer to finally, he was paying $20,000 to realize his dream, right? And so it was of course that's worth $20,000. But then again and again and again, he just found that it just wasn't working for him. Whatever the promise wasn't delivering for him. And so he contacted her and asked for his money back. And she said, no, I don't give refunds. And I'm very disappointed that you don't want to sort of continue on with this program, the implication being that it's something in you, it's something that you're not believing enough, right? A little bit, and if you would just believe a little more, then the magic will continue to happen. And I just think it was sounded very unethical. It left him with a deep sense of loss. This is a person who is trying to support a family and be responsible, and is feeling stuck in a golden handcuff type of job. And this was his first introduction to this whole idea of making his own business. And it was painted over with so much promise and so much sugary possibility. And then, it's like this person, it's like at every turn when you have a choice to make about, is this really going to work? It's like, yes, leap farther, it's all going to work. And that's so nice, but it doesn't necessarily leave you with the tools that you need, right? So no solid business coaching necessarily, no solid, all that boring stuff, right? Like having a business plan in some fashion, or understanding 1,000 things that you might want to understand first. And it burned through $20,000, but it also burned through his hope. And that's the thing that really bothers me the most. And the system feeds on itself, because this is the dynamic. If you're in a village and you bake a bread and your bread is bad, in a few months you don't have any more customers for your bread, or a town, right? Or even a small city. But in the internet, you have an almost infinite number of potential customers. So if, let's say, I get 100 people signing up for my class, and one of those people has a good experience, a wonderful experience, 1%, right? I can take that and have this shining, wonderful testimonial of that person's experience. And then I get 500 people. So now I have 5 testimonials, potentially, right? And then before you know it, I've got 30 testimonials, even if only 1% of my market was actually happy. And there's no way to know that. There's no rating system. There's no anything. And the way I see it is, I think the guru also was believing her own Kool-Aid. It's easy to believe it. Just keep believing. Look, it worked for me. I mean, confirmation bias, is the term for that. Like, I'm the one that was successful, and so I'm proof that anybody can do it. Now you do it. And then all the people that it worked for are proof that anybody can do it. And on and on and on, even if you have a 1% success rate. And I'm not saying this person had a 1% success rate. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the dynamics are set up to feed something that is not very healthy.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. So first of all, I think it's easy to game this system. There's a formula here about, hey, you do this thing, you're going to have a transformation, and life is going to be better on the other side. And it's all up to you to come forward, to grab what there is to grab and make it happen for yourself, which is how you get out of having to give a refund, because you can say you didn't come forward and grab it
enough
the way that you were supposed to. If you had just done that, then it would have been okay. And then this whole doing it enough so that you get enough testimonials, so it looks like there's overwhelming success that you're having, when it's all about this little kernel of success. And maybe somebody had wild success in this like very narrow kind of activity that they did. And so they experienced how to get that wild success. And then they want to give that, or they want to sell that to other people, right? I have another thought about this that I don't have any psychology research about this, but it's just a thought. And that is, if I look at somebody like Tony Robbins, or even some of the other transformational education that's out there, right? Somebody like Tony, whether you like him or not, he is so charismatic that he can get you to do things. He can pull you forward to do things if you're willing and open for that, right? So you pay your money, you go sit in the seat, and you try to be passive about it. And he's so committed to pulling people forward. And he's been doing this for decades, right? This is who he is. This is his gift, is how to get people out of themselves and taking actions they never thought were possible for themselves. Okay, so, you have a few people like that, and some of the transformation education is like that. And if people are really good at it, they get actually reliably repeatable good results. But then somebody else comes along and they look at that and they go look at the formula and they go, oh, this just means people have to engage. Like they're only looking at the words or something, but they don't have that gift of getting people out of themselves and into action. But they're relying on that charisma. Even though they don't have it, maybe they don't even realize that that's a huge part of the equation for some of the people that, just a few of the people that have been successful. And it's not necessarily that person's gift, where it is Tony Robbins' gifts or somebody else's. Instead, people are just looking at the formula and believing that they can create that success for other people using the formula. That's what I see. It makes me really frustrated.
Yeah, I'm reading Seth Godin's new book and the practice. And one of the big things that he certainly has talked about before in this book is the idea that a industrial system has trained almost everybody to try to create uniform results, to expect to get a good answer on the test rather than understand the material, to look at categories, right? So this is a lot of the work we're doing, is helping people break people out of categories, like we're a law firm, or we're an accountant, or we're this, or we're that, instead of like, what's the solution you provide that expresses the unique combination of factors that you are. And so the upshot of that is people want a formula for everything. So we were talking the other day about internet marketing abuse. There's a thread between those two ideas, and it's something about not being willing to look at what's not working, about not being honest about what really works in a particular moment and situation and what doesn't. It's like the problem with The Secret, or things like that. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of good in it, but I'm very familiar that what I've seen is sometimes people who took this positive thinking, I mean, in a way, it's core to some of my work, but what I've seen with some people who took the positive thinking a certain way is an excuse to not have to feel anything else that's not going the way you want it to go. And so there's a denial of the whole picture. I mean, our whole picture, each one of us, is a kind of a mess, like humanity and mistakes and gifts and beauty, things we're ashamed of because we don't measure up. And then other things that we have these gorgeous gifts that we don't even recognize are gorgeous gifts, some of which we show every day without even noticing, and others which we hide furiously so that no one can see them out of terror that they will be recognized. And we're this mixture of things. And so I guess the common thread is the willingness to look and see what's really going on. So with this person where it wasn't working, I would just feel so driven who wasn't working with the $20,000 program to say, what's not working for you? And to really look and maybe see, well, he never had certain basic business education, or it just feels like there was a level of not being willing to look at the human being and notice what he needed and where he needed to go next, and being real and honest enough with that person. Frankly, I mean, some good business coaching, he could have gotten a lot of good one-on-one business coaching for $20,000. So again, that takes us back to a way in which the internet system, hey, you can build your own online course, right? Drives people to the economics of it, and the dynamics of it drive people to want to create replicable things that they don't have to be there for, even if that's not what really works.
Yeah. Yeah. What's missing in there is like what you said, but I just want to pull it out, is that in my world, the way I look at people is each one of us has a brilliance that we bring to the world. Every single one of us, I don't care who it is, every single one of us, I believe that is true. And a lot of times we don't see it. We don't want to do the work to look at it. And these guru programs are not built on spending the time trying to have people figure that out, because they're trying to scale a particular framework and formula across a lot of people so they can make $1 million this year and call it done. And they don't have the gift of people being able to bring themselves out of themselves and look at themselves in a different way. And I mean, I've never done a Tony Robbins program. I've been to his a presentation before, so I have just a little taste. So I don't have any illusions that he is some kind of, but he does have a gift to be able to get enough people outside themselves to be able to look at themselves in a certain way. But it's this, it's this combination of people really needing to do that and gurus really needing to scale, which means there's no time for this. There's only time for, as a group, moving people through a particular formula. I want to add something here, because one of the gurus that I used to like, but he just drives me crazy because I'm really not his target market, is Gary Vaynerchuk. But he just posted something recently that was a comparison of him 10 years ago and now. And his point, I can't tell you the whole thing because I don't remember the whole thing, but the point is that he was telling, in his Gary V style, you need to do what gives you passion and not just do somebody else's formula. Forget their formula. Throw that out, because that is never going to be how you're going to want to have spent the 10 years of your life. All you have is your life and the time in your life. So find what turns you on and do that. And I thought, oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, totally. And I'm thinking about what Seth Godin is saying in here about there's no, one of the things I hear him saying is there's no formula for creative, courageous work. There is no formula. And that is terrifying, because especially for people that grew up in this culture. And I spent a lifetime trying to walk my own path, and I'm still terrified. But in fact, the book is called The Practice, and it's really about a process that doesn't rely on you to always feel confident. Like it can be, I'm terrified, but I'm doing the work to move my own vision forward. And so the terrifying is not stopping me. I mean, and sometimes sometimes the biggest roadblock is the belief that I'm very uncomfortable now. That must be a sign I'm not doing it right. So I'll wait until I feel comfortable. And that could be lost another 10 years of your life.
Yeah. I mean, there's this cartoon, I don't think I saved it, that I remember from like 5 or 10 years ago. And I just thought of it as a funny, but it captures what you're saying so well. And it is true. Like being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff without a parachute and hoping that you're going to be able to fly. Now, there's probably a piece I'm missing in there because I'm not a comedian and I'm not a joke teller, right? But, and it isn't about having a parachute. It's about relying on yourself to be able to figure out, like maybe you're hang gliding or something, right? And you've got the tools, but you're just jumping off the cliff, And if you have a parachute, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, so like if you had a culture of flat dwellers, and let's say the industrial society is a culture of flat dwellers. And so then they hear of this mysterious tribe in the mountains that jumps off of the cliffs. And they tell flat dweller stories about the tribe, and some of the flat dwellers long to have the sense of freedom of flying the way that they hear that the mountain people can. But the way that story gets translated into flat dweller culture is that it's this 1, 2, 3 system of steps that they can take, just as the way they've been brought up in their factories to do in the flatland. And so they're dying for guides to take them into the mountains. But what the mountain people know is that you would never have your kids jump off the highest cliff without practicing first. So you have them imagine what they want to fly and try it out on a small cliff, like a 3 feet drop, 4 feet drop, and see what happens, and have some people around supporting you. And then you've done this 3-4 foot drop several times. Then you learn like how let's just say that every mountain person builds their own flying machine. Like, so it's always different just right for them. So they don't want to fall, all the way down. So then they learn in the culture of the mountain people, they understand how to support each other in running experiments, knowing that they've never run the experiment that their brother has. And they never will, because their brother has a different thing to try. But they support each other in running lots of experiments and going into the unknown. So I don't know. This is kind of an interesting metaphor.
Yeah, it makes me think of another metaphor. So I do pastel painting. And one of the things I've noticed in going to a lot of classes, and I'm pretty good. My brother's, that's his profession, and my mom was a painter, and my grandfather was a painter. So I have just a little bit of it in my blood, right? But what I notice is that you maybe have a vase of flowers on the table, and as a warm up, we're supposed to spend maybe 20 minutes drawing and coloring in the vase of flowers. And then everybody shares. So maybe there's 15 people in the class, and there are 15 radically different interpretations of that vase of flowers, and 15 different levels of accomplishment. Somebody's first time trying something, somebody's been doing this for 20 years, right? Is one better than the other? Not, sometimes there's more craft to it because somebody's been doing it long enough, but their perspective on what they found interesting is so different. And then even then, like if you're in, like I've been in classes with people where it's been 3 years, and I know these people over the course of 3 years, and their skill level builds up, right? The craft of doing it builds up. But their perspective is still radically different than anybody else's that you have ever seen. Everybody has a different perspective, but the difference is that now they can craft that so you can start to really see what they're seeing in the vase of flowers. So they see the tulip's inner petal, where somebody else sees the tulip's leaf, or the hyacinth's gathering of flowers, or the purple, or the orange of the tablecloth. Everybody, and it's not just to see, it's like an interpretation. And so I think this is a little bit of what you're saying is as an example.
Yeah, I'm thinking of really good art teachers that I had in the past, and I don't think I believed them at the time, that they were more interested in my developing my vision. I still wanted to get it right. I still wanted to look wonderfully realistic and have everyone be amazed. So I didn't have faith a long time ago in my own craft, Yeah. So then I think the last thought I wanted to bring in was about internet marketing abuse. That as long as people keep giving entrepreneurs these formulas, then we keep abusing people with internet marketing. So like the latest one now is building the list. And that means how many people can you get to sign up for your email, and to the point where it feels like abuse. And this abuse is given a permission structure that every single client I've worked with practically is sick of email. They're so sick of email because they get 1,000 email things a day that they weren't really asking for. Maybe they said, yeah, okay, I'll give you my email for this information, but it was like a more like a trick.
Yeah. Instead of having it be about building a relationship, like how do I take the first step? How do I hold out my hands and say, you know what, I want to know something about you, and I have something that might help you, but I need to know a little bit more about you, and in the way we do in person.
Right, but it takes a lot of faith, I mean, here's what looks like a lack of faith to me, which I see 20 times a day. I come to a website and I'm starting to get what looks like a useful bit of information, and then a form pops up blocking my vision and asks me to sign up for an email newsletter. Why on earth would I ever want to do that? I close those windows. I close the websites more often than not now when people do that, because I don't want to be abused. And that was validated so many times that now everyone thinks they have to do this, and they don't stop to think. I mean, the secret is, how do you like it when it happens to you?
Yeah, well, and it's also, I mean, there is psychological research. It'd be interesting to correlate it around punishment. and abuse, right? And they're connected, right? And how it becomes less and less effective over time. So you have to ratchet it up and ratchet it up. And if you look at it a certain way, that's what internet marketers generally are doing, unless they're using these tools to build a relationship authentically and build trust little bit by little bit. But for the most part, they're just taking a formula, blasting it out and abusing people so that now they have to do it like.
And I think it takes a tremendous self-discipline within that community or within that world to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until this person's ready to ask me for something. So if I don't pop that box up, I have to have faith that my article was helpful enough, you know? I mean, if the article was helpful enough, it's possible that at the bottom of the article, I might want to click a little box that said, I like this, and I wouldn't mind hearing about you again every now and then. Because honestly, I also have a problem. As a user, I have a problem, which is I definitely don't want to be deluged with stuff from you yet. Why would I want that? I don't even know who you are. But my other problem is I can't remember you, because if that's my choice, is deluge or having to remember you. So I use Pocket a lot so that I can bookmark sites and remember come back to them. But if there was some kind of obvious service, like a remember me service, and actually a really good way to do this would be to have a sort of remember me. Remember me would be a company, right? So Remember Me would have a cute little logo, and people would get the Remember Me company could do brand awareness advertising and things like that to explain that their function was never to overwhelm people, but just that, you know, if you click on a Remember Me, then you'll get a reminder that this website exists once every month or so, right?
Well, that would be interesting. That would be
Yeah,
interesting. It's a lot better than signing up for a newsletter. And then what often happens is I get offers about things rather than getting a fun thing from somebody that's useful.
yeah. So the Remember Me brand would serve a very important function of building a very high level of trust. It has to have a very high integrity, right? And then actually, it could even be a thing where it has to be something very desirable, very much something I really want, something that doesn't feel like a trick or spam. It should be something that is very easy for me to sign up. I sign up for a Remember Me service, and I want to sign up for it, so it doesn't feel weird to sign up for it. It's very, very honest. But then once I signed up for a Remember Me service, all I have to do when I'm at another website is click one little checkbox, and Remember Me will remember that website for me. But it's level one. There's maybe 5 levels of trust building before I want your newsletter. That's level one. But what it's doing is it's saying, yeah, I'd love to sort of hear about you one day again so I don't completely forget about you. And that's about as much attention as I have for you. And then, I mean, isn't this the same way as when you meet someone new and you don't instantly connect, but you like them fine? And it's a nice thing when you meet them again, and over a period of months or years, you might become friends with a few of those people. And never is any one of those people overwhelming you with the annoying offers. Yeah.
I think that you've just come up with a new product.
I think I have come up with a new product, actually. Yeah, that solves the problem.
Yeah, I can think of
Yeah.
all kinds of things. We should have another conversation about this. I can think of all kinds of things that you could do, because what if that's on somebody's site? Like I put it on, you know, say I'm a business, I put it on my site, but I transgress. And then, you know, like I do something Like I have to be somehow have some integrity in order to warrant being able to put a remember me button on my site.
Well, yeah. So remember me might have detectors that detect if you have any kind of pop-ups or things that annoy people. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be browser. What do you call those things? Browser plugin, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with the site. It has everything to do with me. But I think it would be really interesting if you had to earn it to put on your site.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe that's
That.
a second level of remember me. Maybe there's the
Hmm.
plugin that's like a bookmark, and then there's another. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe they're different products.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but I think one of the big things here that ties together all these threads is lots of people don't seem to have trust in, they have trust in themselves in the regular world, but they don't trust themselves in the internet world. Yeah. So, for example, we did a survey of bookshops, and we found that they might have a wonderful bookshop, but they don't. Their website is terrible. Their website in no way reflects the kind of care and thoughtfulness that they put. So they're in their minds. They're thinking, "Oh, this is online, so I don't know about it, and so I'll just trust the webmaster or something to know how to build this thing." Okay, so I see that my three friends have a pop-up that makes somebody give an email. So obviously that's what all the internet gurus are saying to do. That's where the thread ties back.
Yeah, you're right. You know, people, yes, it's so interesting to see people's reaction. Like when I've taught this before in the past, right? And I tell them, okay, so what would you do in person? And then what would you do online? And how would you feel about that? And they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't get that at all. You know, and I'm sorry, I can't come up with an example right off the top of my head today, but
No, I think that's very powerful right that way. Yeah.
yeah.
The sending the message that we really want people to trust themselves. I mean, that's the key. That's coming back to Seth Godin's thing, is trusting, not giving over your power to these gurus. It's not about this one quick magical fix, but of course, people think there's this wonderful lifestyle you could have living in Bali, working on your laptop 1 hour a day, doing these online courses. And it's really a problem because the glamour level is painted so high, but the authenticity level is not living up to that same level. Like, first and foremost, I want to build things that are helpful to people. I mean, we don't need any more plastic things that are semi-helpful. And that's what Seth Godin, he developed his whole online education platform based on that idea, that watching videos online with no accountability and no community was kind of a little bit pointless, frankly. And just wasn't working. And he needed to find a way to build in the community. And I took one of his workshops, and it was fantastic. Now he's doing very well, and I'm sure he's making good money on it. He could have capitalized on his reputation and squeezed out more millions of dollars out of it at this point, and just squeezed it dry if he had wanted to, but he didn't do that.
I know. Yeah. A lot of his courses are very reasonably priced. And you learn a lot from the community. You learn a lot from the directed, powerful questions that get asked in the process of the course. It's interesting, very different. Certainly nothing is fed to you. You have to grab hold of it and mold it and play with it and try it out and turn it upside down. And you have to be engaged.
Right. So that ties back to the $20,000 thing that did not work for this person. I see a lot of people trying to promote the glamour and glitz of their program that are good people, sweet people. And in fact, I've seen a lot of other people I know say the same thing, that they have friends who are trying to promote these glitzy programs that have a kind of polish on them that doesn't feel totally real. Like they haven't totally let it drop into who they are. I mean, I think it's very interesting to think how we can sort of scale what we're doing in a way or make it into a viable business. That's very important to me. But it's what's most important to me is have a viable business that is meaningful and helpful to people and help people to do that.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
I mean, you only get really this life,
Mhm.
and you can never buy more time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's part of what we're doing with Essential 3 is trying to ground all these wonderful ideas and techniques and things into reality and into the reality of people's lives and ground them into like what satisfaction even means. And actually a lot of that guru stuff also pumps up the service of how it's going to benefit you. It doesn't really pump up the service of how it's going to benefit your customer necessarily. That's really not the main pitch. The main pitch is about how you're going to be able to sit on a beach in Bali and you're going to be able to work 1 hour a day on your laptop by doing online courses. But, not very much talk about all the wonderful change you're going to make necessarily.
Very interesting. Yes, and what motivates us, what inspires you and I and Anita, is how to help people have the impact they want to have on the people in their world, on their customers, their clients, their prospects, anybody that hears them.
What
That
feels like
kind
what,
of
yeah,
deep satisfaction,
right.
right?
I think what we envision is business as a set of success relationships. Like I'm having a success relationship by what I'm offering. My customers are having a success relationship by what they're getting. Everyone's having a success relationship and playing a part in this system that's being more successful. And that feels very exciting.
Yeah. And I just want to say that does not mean that people can't be wildly financially successful. That is not what we're saying. We're not saying forget about that. It's that there's something deeper than that that actually makes all of that other success at whatever level you want it a lot more satisfying and
And
a lot more
yeah,
in tune with who you want to be in the world and in your community.
you know what it feels like? Like my friend is here at the table, she's a gardener. So then I may be thinking of gardening analogy. Um, that you can take the industrial agriculture and pump the soil full of nitrogen fertilizer, and you can get fast growth and exhaust the soil. But in the permaculture, you think of the healthy, balanced soil and the system of all of the relationships with the plant and the neighbor plants and everything is growing better.
Yes, so that you have sustainable long term and maybe even much greater growth. Yeah.
And then you're inspiring people. It's rooted in like a deep sense of understanding the soil and caring for like people requires to slow down a little bit, not just like fast, fast, fast. Take the formula, 5-step formula. That's the answer. It's does not reflect this wisdom. Okay,
Yeah. That was great.
great, great
That was
job.
great.
Thank
Yeah, that
you.
really reflects what we stand for.